Let's get right to the main event. My exclusive interview with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. We met Friday in Kyiv, and I wanted to first understand how he saw the current state of the war. Mr. President, pleasure to see you again. One more September in Kyiv. This one feels like it is happening at a very important moment on the battlefield. Ukrainian forces went into the Kursk region in Russia. You've taken a large amount of territory there. Has that worked? There are people in Ukraine who worry that you took forces away from the Donbass and that those lines are now fragile and weak, even though you have achieved success in Kursk.
Thanks so much. And thank you for this possibility to speak and for it. So, first of all, we had very tough situation on the east, especially on the east, in Kharkiv region, in Donbass region, in some of this direction. It's Vuhledar, it's Pokrovsk, it's Mirnograd, it's a lot of different cities. People know about only Pokrovsk, but you're right that the situation was very difficult. And they moved very quickly because we didn't have equipment. Again, when we speak about equipment, how to equip brigades, really between us, it doesn't matter how many brigades stand on one direction if half of them not equipped. So you just lose a lot of people. You lose people because they are not in armored vehicles or in something like this. And they don't have artillery, they don't have artillery rounds. To compare the number, Russia uses 12 rounds. We used 1 to 12. That was the difference. Of course, the idea with the Kursk is a risk operation. It's true, we understood it, but the idea was to move some Russian forces there. And I think it was right idea.
You know, we've talked about munitions often, and you talk about it a lot. Help us understand. So the U.S. has passed this big aid package. Europe has passed aid packages. Why is that not translating into enough munitions for you now? Is it that there isn't enough supply, or is it that you need more aid?
Everything. A lot of different reasons. First, it goes very slowly. Second, we need 14 brigades to be ready. Until now, we don't have, from this package of brigades, we didn't equip even 4.
So you wanted to equip 14 brigades, and you have not been able to equip 4.
No, it's too much. It's too much for the. That's why we used our interior production of drones. Not enough, but we did it. It goes. As I said to you, that then after 8 months pause in decision before the positive decision of U.S. Congress, what we did during these all 8 months, everybody has to understand, we used all we could. We moved what we have in reserves and what we have in storages, or what reserves brigades who we need now, what they had, we took all their weapons.
You have also been trying to persuade the United States and Europe to allow you to use the weaponry to strike into Russia. Explain why this is important. What do you want to hit in Russia that you think you should be allowed to hit?
Everybody is looking the decision of the United States. Everybody is waiting for such decisions. After that, they make decisions. It's true. And so we wanted very much to use this weapon and just to attack these jets on the military bases, not civilians infrastructure, military bases.
So you just want to be able to attack the bases that are being used to launch these weapons, these planes, these missiles?
Yeah, because these jets, from there they use not only missiles, they use these jets, and jets use per month 4,000 guided aerial bombs just on the east of our territory. 4,000 bombs.
And these bombs and missiles are hitting Ukrainian civilians,
schools,
energies,
universities, all our energy infrastructure. They destroyed 80% by these guided bombs. 80%. Now I said We had some meetings with officials, and I said, we waited too long. Now Russia began to move their jets from 100, 150 kilometers, 300 to 500. After that, I will tell you, and that now we need more permissions.
Do you have permission now to?
No, till now, no.
Next on GPS, from war to peace, perhaps. President Zelensky will meet with President Biden later this month. Zelensky says he will present his American counterpart with a peace plan. I ask him what's in it when we come back. Zelensky says he will present Joe Biden with a peace plan when the two meet later this month. I asked President Zelensky about it during my interview. Mr. President, you've talked a lot about how you also have a path to peace, that your military strategy is designed to make Putin understand he cannot win. Are you going to talk to President Biden when you meet him in New York about this plan for peace?
Yes, I will speak with him how to strengthen ours before peace summit, to be in a strong position, because diplomatic decisions or solutions, they are good when you are strong. Otherwise, Putin will not even, take place in it. And I think otherwise they will be not interested in any kind of circumstances how they can stop the war. That's why I have the plan. Yes, victorious plan, because for us it's victory, to be very strong and be ready for the strong diplomacy. That's why I prepared some points. 4 of them, the basic points, plus 1 which we need after the war. So I will share with Biden. It's about security. It's about geopolitical place for Ukraine. It's about very strong military support and available for us, and that we have to be free how to use one or another item. It's about economical support decisions, but which will be, I think, interesting. But I think that it's main thing. We are ready. If our plan, President Biden will value and will support, and if he and his team can add something which will give us more strongless position, we'll be ready.
Will you present this plan to Donald Trump?
I'm ready. Yes, I'm ready to share it with President Biden. Then, of course, I think it will be honest and right to share it with 2 candidates, with Donald Trump, with Kamala Harris, and also I think that a lot of things depends on decision of the Congress of the United States, so to share it with the Congress. After these steps, we're ready to share it with the people.
How did you understand Donald Trump when he said, I can solve this war, I can end this war within a few days. If I get elected even before I'm president, I'll be able to solve it?
I can't understand it for today because I don't know the details, what he means and what does it mean. So my position that election period and election messages are election messages. Sometimes they are not very real, and that's why I think these messages can make us nervous, all of our people, of course. But I had phone call with Donald Trump, and he said that he is very supportive, and we had good conversation. That's why.
This is recently? When was?
I had only one during this whole period. Yes, it was, I think, 2 months ago.
And he said he was very supportive.
He will be very supportive, and he understands how it's difficult to survive during the war, and he will do everything to strengthen Ukraine. So I don't know. I mean, that's great that it sounds this way, and but that's why I want to share this plan, to hear his reaction.
What do you think is going on in Putin's mind? Because Putin has recently said he's willing to have negotiations, but he talks about what his terms are is essentially total surrender for Ukraine.
I think he didn't change his main idea. And sometimes he's playing just for some leaders who are waiting some emotions from Putin to hear something about peace. And sometimes he can give some messages to global south or somewhere, and they begin to speak. You see, Putin is ready for dialogue. What dialogue? He's a player, and he feels this weakness of the West and global south. He's finding where is the place where they're not in unity, where they have different interests. And I think that is the problem, that people have to understand that his mission is not to stop the war. He doesn't want to stop anything because he doesn't need, and he afraid very much of successful Ukraine. It's not about even victory.
But then how will the war end? Because you're not going to get a total victory, it seems to me. You're not going to drive him out of all of the Donbass and Crimea. He's not going to be able to occupy Kyiv. So there will have to be some compromise.
It's when you're very strong. When you're very strong. And the other side knows that you're very strong. And you're as strong as possible to make influence on his society, not to be very happy with this war, because he afraid, again, I repeat it again and again, because I'm sure in it, he afraid only one thing: no leaders, no countries, no nothing. He afraid of his society, Russian people. And if Russian people are in danger, if they don't have comfortable life, if they live without energy like our people, they will understand the price of the war, and they will be not happy with it, and they will begin to influence on him, on Putin. That's why I said, make Ukraine strong, and you will see that he will sit and negotiate.
Next on GPS, Volodymyr Zelensky has been president of Ukraine for nearly 2,000 days now. When we come back, I ask him about how his extraordinary time in office might have changed him. More of my exclusive interview from Kyiv with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. So when you were elected president, there was a fairly small war going on in the east, but now there has been a full-blown war, a battle of survival for 3 years. So it's a very different world. I mean, when we first met, you were wearing a suit. How has this war changed you?
Like I said to you, be very honest, I think this war changed all of us. It's true. The war was only on the east, and here in the capital, in other regions, especially in the west and even on the south, which is closer to the east. But anyway, people didn't feel war. That was in our mind very mistakable that the war is very far. Now this mistake in some minds and some heads of our colleagues who are in Europe, they think that the war is far from. No. By the way, 800 from Kyiv to the east, to the point where the war was from 2014. 800 kilometers, like the distance between our border and a lot of European countries. So the war is very close, but we don't know about it and don't believe in it until the war came everywhere to Ukraine. After 2022, came everywhere to all the families, and of course it changed all of us, all Ukrainians, and all our families, divided families, took a lot of lives. A lot of human losses, a lot of, destroyed everything. In unity, otherwise Putin or some similar guys, you know them, can divide the world and can eat these pieces like a pie. And that's why we need this unity. And I hope that this war changed minds of people and change minds of leaders of global countries. We count on it.
Mr. President, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for it. Thank you for everything.
Coming up next on GPS, I'll introduce you to an extraordinary 15-year-old girl I've come to know here in Ukraine. It's a reintroduction for some of you. Masha's been on the show these past 2 Septembers. But now, she's suffered a terrible tragedy. Masha's story when we come back. When air raid sirens first rang out in Ukraine in February of 2022, children around the country watched as Russia launched a full-scale invasion of their homeland. Millions of kids, more than half of the country's child population, were forced to flee their homes. Many watched their own family members head to the front lines. Russian bombs rained down on their cities and their schools. In less than a year, more than 2,600 schools were damaged or destroyed. Most schools in the country closed for a period of time. That year, we made a trip to Kyiv, where I wanted to understand how the war was affecting Ukraine's young people who were returning to school for the first time in months. We gathered a group of students who were all impressive. But a girl named Masha stood out, especially with her message to Vladimir Putin.
I urge you to visit all of these places that were destroyed by your soldiers, by your decision, and talk to all of the people whose lives were destroyed by you.
The war had practically come to Masha's backyard when Russia invaded. But when we spoke to her the second time, in September 2023, it had actually hit home with her father on the front line.
And do you get reports back from him?
I do, but it's not very often, and it has been like 5 days since he was on his phone, so I don't know. But it was like the Starlink wasn't working very well, so I think everything is okay. I hope so.
It must be an extraordinary feeling where, like, if you've been hearing from him every couple of days and then you don't hear, you wonder why you didn't hear.
Yes.
Right? And is it just that the internet is down, or is it something bad?
And this is the hardest thing, because you don't know, and you don't know the time when you're going to get a message from him, and you don't know if you're going to get the message from him. And yeah, that's the hardest part.
I sat down with Masha this week to hear her story.
I remember when I asked you about your father, you said that you didn't know where he was.
Yeah.
And you were worried that there may be some trouble with the internet. That's why you hadn't been able to be in touch with him.
Yeah, because they said that there was just like something wrong with Starlink. So I just thought that it's okay, like he's all right, just he can text me, and that's the only problem. But unfortunately, that was not the problem.
So a few days after we talked, it turned out he had been killed.
Yeah.
How?
It was a bomb who killed him and the other guys with him. It was the 3rd of September, and the next day he was planning to go to Bakhmut to take some weapons and things. And the night before that, he was killed by Russia.
When did you find out that he was dead?
It was my mother who told me that. I remember it was after school. She was waiting for me, not in her car as usual, because usually she waits for me in her car and I'm just sitting and we're going home. But I remember that I saw her just like in front of her car, and I was like, what's wrong? Why is she standing there? And then there was the phrase that your father is dead.
How did you react?
I was stunned. I remember that I couldn't really believe that. Of course, when your father is on the war, there is a possibility that he can be killed. But my father was so optimistic about things, and he had a lot of plans about his life. And I was just very faithful, and I believed in him, and I believed in his life. And then there's like, he's dead. It just, the moment when you realize that everything can happen in this life and it just can turn to the other side.
Yeah. Tell me about him. What kind of man was he?
He's definitely is the bravest person that I have ever known. And as I said, he was always very optimistic about things, and I think that's what he and I have in common, because we're just really good optimists.
If you have a message for him, if you could say one thing to him that you wished you had said, is there something that you didn't say?
That I am proud to be his daughter.
When we talked last year, I also asked you, what would you tell Putin? And you said, you wished he could come and see the death and destruction that his policies are producing. Today, if you had a message for Putin, what would it be?
I have no words left to him. All I have is just hate. Because my father died because of him, and there is no dialogue with such people. All you want to do is just kill him.
Did you, in the days after, did you have a sense of bitterness? Why did this happen? He shouldn't have volunteered. It's only human to have that.
I remember thinking, like, why my father? I couldn't really think other things, just like, why is he dead? Why is Putin just sitting there alive and making all of these terrible decisions, and my father is dead? The person that I had this huge bond in my life, and one of the closest people in my life, and he's dead now, and I can see his smile just in the photos in my phone or on his grave. I was heartbroken, obviously.
Masha, thank you for sharing this with us. I know it's hard.
Thank you so much.
Russia's advances near the city of Pokrovsk have been touted as among its fastest gains since 2022. The fight there is the current main thrust of Moscow's unrelenting attacks on eastern Ukraine. Ukrainian forces are resolutely fighting to maintain a hold there. But it makes one wonder, as the war continues to take a toll on Ukrainian forces, how long can they resist Russia's relentless aggression? I spoke to Yegor Fitsov, a chief sergeant in the army. He oversees more than a dozen soldiers in a drone attack unit. He is just back from the front lines, stationed between Pokrovsk and Toretsk, both tactically vital cities in the east that are under consistent barrage of attacks from Russian forces. Igor, pleasure to have you on. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for your support.
Tell me, we're all trying to understand, what is it like to be on the front lines? Where exactly are you?
There is hard situation, difficult situation. First of all, I should say that, like, on the one hand, Russians have suffer heavy losses. We destroyed a lot of objects of Russians, like tanks, yeah. But on another hand, we have a serious problem with our infantry. I mean, our soldiers are tired. Tiredness is one of the reasons our crisis.
Because they've been out on the front lines now for almost 3 years.
Yeah,
Very little
absolutely,
rotation.
Absolutely.
Igor, let me ask you, are you nervous doing this interview?
No, because my nervous left in trenches. A lot of time I'm not nervous.
After having been in battle,
Yeah,
an
yeah.
interview for CNN is nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I am like, I have relaxed here. Yes, I have several days for that relax. And after that days, I will back in frontline zone and from Pokrovsk. And unfortunately, I don't know, will we control Pokrovsk city or not? Over that several days.
You think it's that close?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And so people can understand how much the situation has changed. My understanding is Pokrovsk, months ago, was like Kyiv.
Absolutely, you are
Cafes, people.
100%. I said that point everywhere, that life of Pokrovsk, if we compare with Kyiv, it's the same life was before, even several months ago. And unfortunately, I should say that Pokrovsk is becoming like Avdiivka and Bakhmut.
So the city is being destroyed. There's a bombardment.
Yeah, absolutely. Without people, every day.
Have most of the people fled?
Yeah.
And
No,
this
like,
is a city of 100,000 or 80,000
yeah,
people.
like majority of people left.
Yeah.
Of course.
You are worried that Pokrovsk will fall.
Yes.
Now you've just had a change in your family life.
Yes, 1 week ago I became father. Yes, now I have daughter, Elizabeth,
Wow.
and it's big motivation for me, and it's a big reason to continue our fight. And now maybe she is like changing my life, my thoughts, and it's big, like big. I don't know. I cannot explain to change.
How is it changed? What's it making you think?
No, it's like
You want to leave her?
more like responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, more. It's understanding why should we fight. Yes, and I do want that my children will not fight. I do want that my children will not know what is war, what is fighting. Yes, and I understand that I should continue that war, so that we'll finish that and we'll win.
You fight so that your daughter will not have to fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Igor, pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to all of you for being part of my program from Kyiv this week. I will see you next week.